The theory of it, I suppose the biggest challenge that you've articulated there becomes the emotional quotient of going, okay, all of your most powerful memories in your life, I bet you can almost guarantee that people can tell you how they felt.
Totally. Yeah.
And versus when you are in a classroom, or you are going through a theoretical exercise, or you're going through a fairly low stakes drill of going, well, if you don't feel emotionally connected in that, how can you possibly expect them to really take it seriously or remember the essence of what was trying to come across?
Absolutely. And when we think about memory, and there's a lot more research done about memory and how we remember, and there's quite a lot of evidence to suggest that emotions and we remember feelings far more than we remember visual cues, etc., etc. So again, if you feel that, if you feel that, wow, that really scared me. Why did that scare me? Or what was missing? I was missing some form of communication. I was really annoyed and frustrated because the boss kept constantly asking me how I was. How's it going? What are we doing? Converse for a leader. Why did the guys all looked at me like, I've done something horribly wrong. I was only trying to help. Why did it not work? Unless you get that emotional attachment, as you rightly say, then the learning, you're struggling with the learning. It's difficult to get that learning achieved. So, yeah, it's the emotional tie that is the key to the memory part.
I was told something early on in my career, and I can't remember what the context for it, whether it's sales or leadership or what, but it's stuck with me. And it's that simple expression is, people will often forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And fundamentally that becomes the trainer's challenge, is going, how do you connect the emotional memory to what is going on? And I imagine that the biggest challenge with trying to simulate something in crisis, where you are trying to allow people to become used to the emotions that they will experience in a crisis, the only way to simulate that is to almost put them into that environment, which has some fairly obvious challenges associated to it.
It does, and it comes with risk at all stages. So it comes for risk for the individuals, it comes from risk for the leader, and cost as well if you're not careful.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, then it clearly there's a cost to be had. It's the benefits of the learning. It's finding a way that you can generate that emotional tie and achieve the benefits. And the benefits are remembering how you felt.
I mean, outside of the topic that we're about to move on to, what have been the particularly creative ways, agnostic of cost for a moment, that you've seen crisis be trained in the past that have actually had a really compelling experience? And actually, even allowing for cost, what you've seen that cost reward look like?
Yeah, I've seen, again, I've not seen a great deal outside of the military. Probably because I've not really looked that closely, but certainly within the military, we are just, the aim is not to replicate the crisis. So I say take firefighters. So if I want to teach someone to put out a fire, I can teach them to put out a fire. I can show them lots of different ways to put out lots of different fires. When it comes to the actual crisis event, so when the firefighter gets there, that's a skill he's already got. The hippocampus kicks in. He then starts to put out the fire as he's trained. The emotional aspects, the external noises, those external factors that make it the crisis, that bring in the unfamiliarity. What is happening? It's an unfamiliar building. This is unfamiliar. That's the bit that's difficult to replicate. So what we try to do is you try to focus on a key area, and it may be something like communication is a classic one. Communication is always a challenge in any crisis, and it's probably one of the ones that gets the least attention paid to it. Again, outside of what we used to do. People think it will just work. Give me a radio, give me a mobile phone, and I'll just talk, and then that'll work fine. They don't appreciate that when people are doing that, they're not listening. The language that is used is is different depending who you're speaking to, who you're talking to. And did he say this? Did he say that? Did she mean this? Did she mean that? What does she want me to do now? Why has this person not done what I've just told them to do? And I thought I was perfectly clear. So on the training side, rather than try to replicate a crisis, so you take into a corporate sector and you have a complete shutdown on all systems, you may want to focus on an element of that and say, right, how are they going to feel if they lose the ability to do this? So it's not going to grind the whole business, bring the whole business to a standstill, but you're certainly going to impact a certain part and a certain group of them. And then you can really focus and you can push those people into that kind of red danger area. But again, it's about understanding what you're looking for. And it's about training those key elements. You're not trying to, you're not trying to create the whole crisis event. You're trying to teach people how to cope with this uncertainty and this unfamiliarity. I've seen a couple of exercises. I've seen a few people that have worked on communication exercises where they've used different techniques such as blindfolding people to try to install the communication. That works quite nicely, especially if there's things like trip hazards, because now you suddenly add an element of, oh, I might trip, I might.
Who signed the waiver for that one?
They're good, they're okay, but they're not fully immersive. So it's they're tooling. It's a bit like simulators. Aircraft simulators are great for replicating certain things, but at the end of the day, you've always got the big red stop button, so you'll never get that next stage.
Yeah, I suppose, and that's the simulator piece is wonderful for training that muscle memory of, okay, you want your body to do certain things. The challenge becomes when it's not the norm and when it's not the consistent, that you can't just default into what you've physically been trained to do.